Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Classic Quest podcast.
We're happy to have you here.
It's your boy HSR.
It's your lady friend Bonnie.
And as you can see, Christopher is still missing. He'll be back next week.
Yeah.
So that's that. Before we get into episode 46, why don't we do the housekeeping portion, which does mean if you want to skip ahead, just open up the description below the video and you can jump to where we actually start the episode. On that note, there's a couple of things to discuss. We're going to start with our favorite comments from, well, normally it's last week, but this is a special exception. Mr. Big Sexy 7 has in fact requested this particular album that we're going to be reviewing on 6 separate occasions, as you can see.
He really wanted us to do this.
Persistence stuck with me, so here we are doing this album. And Struggle Bars also requested it, and as I was putting this together, I noticed it and just threw it in, so double shout out for all that.
Yep.
Next little update is the first version of the request list, which isn't the complete version, it's an in-progress thing, is available in a Google Doc file in the description as well, so you can see what albums have been requested, and you can add to that list in the comments below. We'll make sure it gets updated.
Plus, we have our own list of albums that, you know, we do want to accomplish over the next years or whatever that we're doing. So I think, you know, we're going to take some from there and some from...
But like more, just if you want to add to that list, you can do so in the comments. And speaking of comments, I want to just go over our grind to 1,000 subscribers contest.
We're getting there.
Basically, if you subscribe to the channel, like the video, and proceed to leave a comment about us, about the review, you know, something about the album, just something to show that you're participating, you get entered into a raffle. And what will happen is the first prize will be $100 of Amazon gift money of a US dollar equivalent. Plus, you get to request a review, and we'll do it as soon as possible. You also get to request which team members participate in that review, so you get out of control in that moment. Second prize will be $50 plus a review, and third place will be $25 plus a review. And in case you were unaware, YouTube has updated their policies, giving us a little bit of an encouragement to get to 1,000 subscribers before February 20th. So if
you can make that happen, just press the subscribe button.
And if you do, and we achieve that, we're going to give away 2 additional $25 gift cards if we can hit that goal of 1,000 subscribers by February 20th.
Yeah, we've got a certain deadline now.
All right, so that's enough of that. Y'all came here for a particular reason. So, Bonnie, why don't you introduce the album / mixtape we are discussing today?
Well, this week we are doing Capital STEEZ, his Reloaded AMeriKKKan Korruption.
Yes, that is the one we are doing. I didn't know anything about Capital STEEZ before this request came in.
Nope.
I Googled him a little bit, discovered that not long after this came out, he unfortunately took his own life, which is kind of sad.
Yeah, he was 19.
Apparently, he developed a big following, so I imagine that's you who is watching this video after that happened. And what I also discovered is that he was one of the original founders of the Pro era, which I believe is the Joey Badass crew.
Yeah.
And I just think it's pretty interesting to, I don't know, just all of that. The impact that this one dude has had all this time later in light of that. But really, I don't know anything about him going into this. So this was 100% my first experience with Capital STEEZ. What about you?
Same. I didn't know anything about him. And, you know, I know that he now hails from Brooklyn, and I know a few things about him now, having like done some research. Obviously, he's believed to, or he believes himself to be one of the Indigo children, and that's kind of an interesting phenomenon. It's like a pseudoscientific way, and I think a lot of people who are like ADD and like a lot of like weird sort of brain type issues are like given this title so that like parents feel better and that they're like it's like a gift, you know, to that the kids have this, and like they have all these weird things here. Actually, I'm just gonna like, it's a weird thing. So it's like all these kids, it's like, are empathetic, curious, and strong-willed, are often perceived by friends and family as being strange. So like just like these really weird things. But also they think that they're entitled, and they kind of have like this kind of arrogant attitude to like towards them. And I think that you kind of definitely get that feeling throughout the album. But I mean, that's my opinion. But I think it's also something that is interesting. Like they're just sort of like these weird kids, and they've identified themselves as such, indigo children.
So they came up with the term, or somebody else?
No. It was somebody else came up with it in the 70s, and then like a whole bunch of like publicity, I guess, like surfaced in the 90s. And so kids or parents were trying to find, like, you know, if they, like I said, if they had ADD or something, it was very common that, you know, if your kid was weird or whatever, they gave them like this fancy name. So.
All right, fair enough. I guess it's a particularly long version, this Reloaded edition. So we took with a grain of salt that the extended length was not necessarily the original release, so it's basically the bonus edition.
Yeah.
But on that note, that album cover does really nothing for me. It's very simple. The Reloaded one is basically just a blue version of the original album cover.
Yeah, and it looks just like it's been stamped. I saw the zoomed in image that's like there, and it kind of looks like when it's in red all around it and white in the circle, it looks kind of like it should be a Nazi symbol, but it isn't. And then the more I looked at it, I actually was trying to like figure it out, like what it was and what it meant. And the more I looked at it and like going through his album, I realized that he's really interested in and believes in the power of the number 47. And so it's a 47. It's what that symbol is. And I didn't see it at first at all. But yeah, it's a 47.
Oh, I can see it now that you say that. I didn't notice that at all.
Yeah, so it's 47. It's like his, I don't know, his weird number that he believes in.
I do like the title. It's provocative. It makes me think of Mr. Ice Cube.
Yep.
With the AMeriKKKan part there.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I like the idea of corruption. It's spelled with a K. Kind of stylistically adds a certain degree of power when matched with the triple K from the American part, and it gives you this idea that whatever you're gonna hear is about to be some real shit. Like he's about to spill some secrets, as they say. That was my first impression with this. Like, we gonna get the rundown on all the bullshit that's been going on. And keep in mind, this is 2012, so the Illuminati is still being praised or worshipped or studied, or however you want to describe it. I've had some fanatical conversations, well, folk who were fanatical conversing with me.
Okay.
Regards to it back then, and I don't know, I guess it's right before the end of the world too, according to the Mayan calendar and all that stuff. So,
well, I think that's like something that it was in that year, you know, December 21st.
Yeah.
Which is interesting considering that he killed himself on like the 23rd, 24th of December. So just a few days after that, it's kind of like it didn't happen. And maybe there was an impact that had on him that made him want to kill himself as well.
Perhaps.
Plus, people have implied that he may be schizophrenic. And also mixing weed with schizophrenia is apparently not a good idea, which he smokes a lot. So maybe there's that.
Maybe. I don't know enough about that, honestly. But you wanna jump into this 21 track adventure?
Yeah, let's do it.
So the title, well, the first one is Capital STEEZ. My first thought was, that's a familiar beat.
Yep.
So we had just done Mad Villainy not that long ago, and having all caps as beat appear again was nice because it's really swell. And then kind of the reality that it was a mixtape clicked in, right? And I had to kind of personally keep that in my mind. I'm new to mixtapes, so sometimes the lesser quality of engineering and things like that are a little hard to swallow. Be that as it may.
Plus, he was up and coming at this point. You know, he hadn't fully made it, I guess, before he released this album.
Right. As I understand it, his studio album's still kind of floating around. But I guess where I'm going with that is, so the engineering, like, it kind of sounds a little raw, which is okay. And then he comes in and he just starts, like, spitting. And it just kind of flows through the verse. I think it's like this one is, 2 verses or whatever.
Yeah, most of his songs aren't so long.
But, like, well, even if it's not about the length, it's just that they don't necessarily have, like, choruses or really punchy things. So.
Yeah, it's like he just sort of freestyles, but, like, written freestyle, I guess, so not really freestyle.
And I don't know. My first thought was the guy has this really powerful ability to string together wordplay. Like, he really understands wordplay and flow, and is I don't know, like, just there's lines like this is almost I don't want to say typical, but it's like a basic braggadocious track where he's kind of using that humble brag approach where he's just kind of spitting almost fact as he's just kind of dropping crazy fucking bars the whole way through. I mean, down to that, like, braggadocious compliment to himself at the end where he's kind of like, man, even when I try to go simple, I can't even do it, it's always too much.
I took that differently, like when he says, why can't he just be like other rappers, he always overdoes it. And I feel like that's like a bit of self-doubt there, like that it's, maybe he's like, why do I have to go like so hard, like it was too much, like almost what he says. So I think that he kind of holds back because he doesn't want to go so hard sometimes.
Maybe.
I just thought it was like a little bit different. I thought it was more of a self-doubt kind of thing.
I don't know. I mean, maybe you're right. I took it kind of like, because like the whole song, like my first thought was, for an album called AMeriKKKan Korruption, this is so like typical. Not that it's poorly designed, but like it felt very almost generic in terms of the subject matter covered. Not that it's, again, a negative criticism. I was okay with that. But, like, he's got lines like, plus your shit is outdated, like the calendar's wrong, boys, so fall back, it's all caps, record that, or you can get your jaw cracked and stomped like floor mats, plus we're right outside your crib doormats, with 2 holding on the back bra strap, which is amazing, right? Just like the holding on the back bra strap. I'd never heard that pun made before, and it was clever writing.
Yep.
But really, if you think about what he's kind of saying there is, your stuff's not as good, I'm dope, I come in, whatever, we're able to take you out, and he's gonna whatever. But at service value, it's pretty standard, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm not trying to be negative. I hope it doesn't get taken poorly or anything, because I was really impressed by his flow and his wordplay, and just the almost MF Doom casualness of his flow. Like, he just hit that track like he didn't give a fuck, right?
Yeah.
And then I don't know. I also really dig the lines, or check the tag miss straight. STEEZ varsity jacket set me apart from the average because I'm the motherfucking star Astrids. Fuck friends, I'm in it for the dollars like Mavericks. And it's just like, I don't know. Maybe it's that he's using words I don't always hear, and that in and of itself is interesting to me.
Yeah, that's true. I think that he also talks about having had like this great vocabulary that he's had since, elementary school. And I think that people are kind of always like stunned when he starts talking or spitting his rhymes because they are so interesting. And like, maybe he doesn't have like such a high education, or maybe he wasn't great in school, but his knowledge is great. Or maybe he was great in school. I don't know.
Well,
he was definitely a class clown, that's mentioned in this song.
But in general, I don't know. I'm left with the impression that this is like an okay, really solid track. Like, taking into account where he's at in his career and everything, it fucking blows me out the water how impressive this is. But as a track, I'm still leaving it with a 4 on 5, because like, it is really well composed. Like, I've heard top tier guys who might not be able to deliver as a well composed like set of lyrics like that. But at the end of the day, it's still kind of more like a sample of what he can do as opposed to being like the full experience. So, anyway, 4 on 5.
Yeah, this is sort of just him talking a little bit about like how he kills it at the rap game, and it's just interesting, the whole song, what it's about. I do really like the MF Doom featurette, or I guess it is, or the background. Like, I don't know, I liked it. I thought it was cool. I thought it was a unique. Like, I've never heard anybody else use him in that way. Yeah, so I gave it a 4 on 5. It was interesting.
All right, cool. Let's move on to Dead Prez.
Been real with this missing Jakk. The fool for thought, but I tossed the scraps in the Doggybag.
I just gotta say, I really like the high-pitched gangster OG funk West Coast feel of this, like that sound that got through in. I think it was really was really nice.
For sure.
obviously this track has a certain influence from Jay-Z's Dead Presidents.
And Nas, I think that there was some reference to him as well.
Well, isn't it that the song that Jay-Z took the Nas chorus?
Oh, I guess so.
Anyway, I don't know. Maybe there was. I may have missed that. I took this one. It was a little more structured. Like, this was a little more impressive to me, and I was a little more into this one. So you got, like, that first verse where he kind of sets up how he sees his value within the industry. Mm-hmm. And then that next verse, he's kind of, like, talking to another artist, like, who like, approaches him in a conversation. And then, like, he's kind of like, yo, but y'all just want to compromise for money, and I just want to keep it legit. And in that third verse, it kind of has him, like, longing for, like, an older day almost, a simpler time. I may have misinterpreted that third verse, but that's kind of how I remember interpreting it.
Okay.
And in general, it's the same kind of, like, commentary I'm going to have. Like, he comes at it with a similar flow, I find. But it really works. Like, he's got some really interesting questions and ideas in this track. Like, is there a heaven for us hip-hop heathens? Big Pop and Pac, even Easy had him leaning. We all children looking for a reason, but what do you believe in? Betrayal, treason, you know? Like, that's just an interesting idea that they're all kind of like heathens turning on each other and shit. And, like, at the end of the day, you know, is there a heaven for them? Like,
yep.
Anyway, I know I just kind of restated it, but it was one of those lines that just, like, makes you think.
Yeah, I took down that one too, so it makes sense. I mean, it was one that stood out to me.
Or, like, I really like the conversational tone of, hey, yo, STEEZ, let me send you a track. I've been a fan for a while, and I appreciate you hitting me back, because me and you, we like similar cats. I'm just trying to get on the map, and I would love to work with you and Jakk. But I'm afraid it's not as simple as that in any kind of response here, because the symphonies and melodies haven't been having the same chemistry. And, like, just showing that it's not just as simple as, like, oh, I make rap, you make rap, let's link up. Like, there has to be a certain degree of synergy to what they're all doing. Mm-hmm. The music has to matter. So, like, in this track, he really is kind of showing his integrity a little bit mixed in with everything else. And there's one more I really like this track. So there's, like, one more I quoted was, the shit was looking quite critical, right? Before we came in, Cohen Kane flowing the Novocaine for your open veins. All we need is something medicinal. Torch the flame. And, like, his flow comes in hot like the drugs, and then, you know,
yep.
They just kind of want to light one up right after and flip it. I don't know. I dig the way he crafts these lines, and he puts these verses together. And in this track, fucking blew me out the water. Joey Badass produced an excellent beats. 4.5 on 5.
Nice. Okay, for me, like, I liked it at the very beginning. It says third rail skipping over missing tracks, and the beat itself I found almost sounded like maybe it was recorded, or part of, like, the beat was recorded from riding over the tracks to Brooklyn on the metro or the subway system or whatever, and it kind of had, like, that skippy, like it was skipping over a track, like not just like a music track, but like a railway track. So for me, like, it kind of sounded like that, and I like that. I thought it was interesting that he said that he's trying to hide his scars from God. Like, maybe he's done some sinful things or has some sinful scars. Like, I feel like that's maybe, like, maybe he's cut himself, or maybe he's done something that was criminal and ended up with, like, you know, a scar from it or whatever. And I thought that was interesting that he's trying to, like, hide it from him. So yeah, it's for me, like, I got a lot of it that he was just trying to make it in the rap game, that he was trying to make it, and that he's just trying to have a lot of money. And I liked that the wordplay, he's out for dead presidency, because it also sounded like out for, like, kind of, I don't really know what the dead presidency would be, but I like that it sounded like dead presidents, comma, C. Like that, like, it sounded different. And yeah, I just thought it was interesting. I thought it was an interesting song that people have high expectations for him. So I gave this a 4 on 5. It wasn't my favorite, but I got a lot from it.
All right, so why don't we free the robots on the next one?
Legend, but I'm sick and tired of asking my virgin if it all ends in 2000.
I fucking love this one.
Yeah.
That beat is pretty next level to me.
It was kind of Beatle-y or, like, old school sounding. Like, it had that kind of, you know, I don't know, Pink Floyd sound or something.
And just like that sample, Dear Diary, what a day it's been,
yeah.
or like whatever it exactly was. it kind of sets this context where you just picture like everything that's about to happen is STEEZ just writing in his diary, which might be a good summation of a lot of this album.
Yeah.
But he comes in and he just approaches almost so many topics on this one little track here, like criticism of the government, like the end of the world, just different social issues.
Yep.
And the second verse, it's like he focuses a little more on the hood life and like just what options are actually available in spite of everything. And so that was particularly interesting. Like, these are the things that are pressing on his mind, and he just like had to get them out. And of course there were like substantial lines that popped out at me on this shit, like, because apocalypse is getting closer, but they're more focused on our little youth sipping soda. Fuck the sugar act, out there pushing crack, and I lost my father figure because of that. So like that just packs in so much to me. Like, on the one hand, you got literally the kids who are consuming the sugar drug and literally like pushing PepsiCo and all that bullshit, right? Which is a dangerous scourge to the youth. But on the other hand, you have like the crack side of things and how he lost his father figure over that shit, which just is another reality that like, you know,
because I think he grew up with a stepfather, so I think that's like his real father that he's talking about.
Yeah, it's one, again, like when you hear lines like that every single time, it just strikes me that like the realities are so different than what I've come from. And it's just, I don't know, the more I hear these albums, the more it just makes me feel more empathy than I ever did when I was younger. So
that's
I
good.
appreciate that, you know. The next one that really struck me was "A man's world, but a white man's planet."
Yep.
And the doors are slowly closing while we fall in through the cracks of it. It's a shame that flipping crack will be the best alternative if you don't make it rapping. These crack houses and trap houses are trapping us in, and in the end we're gonna remain stagnant. I ain't having it. And it's just like, on top of like him just kind of outlining the situation that his people are faced with, he's just like, die at the end, I ain't having it. Like, he's gonna fucking protest, he's gonna fucking fight back. I don't know, between the sick hook, the awesomely composed weird beat, like it wasn't a standard beat, but it flowed so well with STEEZ's voice. All of that together, I'm giving this song a 5. Like, if there was like a Spotify option for me to plus this shit, I would have plussed it right away. And it is a shame that it's not on Spotify, is all I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, this song is sort of just about what he fears and what he sees is all happening around him. It's just interesting. He talks about like the apocalypse and that, you know, maybe God won't show up and get us. Maybe he's forgotten about us. And he believes in a lot of conspiracies as well. He's sort of like weird and mystical in that way. And he also doesn't believe in black on black violence. So in that sense, he's sort of like a hippie in a lot of his like approaches to life, that he's trying to be more thoughtful and have more mindfulness, I guess. Just something in, you know, like he's obviously the next generation, and there's a lot of like influences that are affecting him. So yeah, I mean, I thought it was a really cool song. I liked it. Yeah, so I gave it a 4.5 on 5.
All right, let's move on to the vibe rating.
All right, let's do it.
Shit, I'm here all night. I wanna hear it, then embarrass it. Here on sight.
This one is over the instrumental from Sound is Vibration by Atmosphere, produced by Ant, I believe it is. This track kind of has him basically saying he's not only is he the shit and like he's got his whatever going on, but he's coming after corruption and he's not going to stand there and kind of take it, which is a particularly interesting take. It's like, in this world where everyone, especially in hip-hop, almost has this idolization with being a villain, to see a dude who's almost with fervor trying to be a hero is pretty dope, actually.
Yeah.
Not to say that everyone out there is being a villain, but there's a certain degree of infamy that is constantly glorified, as opposed to finding proactive dudes who really want to make a difference. I believe that's the main appeal of Joey Badass as it is that he has that kind of like positive, we can make a difference kind of feel to his music. So it's cool to see kind of a younger, earlier version of that almost. Anyway, the beat's alright. It is totally not my favorite one on this album. No disrespect to Atmosphere. But he's got a couple of lines on here again that I liked. Pretty much found something I liked on every track. So, shit, I'm here all night. I want to hear it, then embarrass you here on sight. And don't expect to be saved without a hero in sight, because my microphone is hotter than a heroin pipe. just a freaking interesting line. Like,
Well, it just goes to show that what he's trying to say is that his music is better than drugs.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
But on top of that, like, he'll take you out, kind of like, cause he anyway. Then he's the other one that really struck with me was, now I'm left with pennies and I had to learn the harder way. That's a foul shot and I ain't even get the score. Just memories that always end me getting, and that's the past. I don't ponder on it anymore. Represents a metaphor of me closing a mental door. So just the idea that like he's able to get past things and like move on in his life is it's just rare to hear this type of shit being so braggadociously thrown down in a rap song the way he's putting these ideas together.
Yeah.
And I can start to see why he has like the appeal he has and why so many people dig this record, because it's got a certain degree of authentic charisma to it that might not be as present in other albums we've covered, you know?
Yep.
Not to say that like on the classics, I'm talking about more of maybe the newer albums we've covered. Anyway, I'm okay with this track. I feel like at this point you're starting to get a little bit of what the whole album's gonna feel like. These powerful, dense little pack verses, you know, whatever. So I give this one a 4. It wasn't necessarily like stand out to me, but this is definitely a project that I could see myself throwing on every now and again to really just get in the vibe of having some information thrown at me.
Cool. I also gave it a 4 on 5. I liked the beat a little bit. I liked the harp that was in the background. I just find that his rap has just like a lot of meaningful messages within it, and so it's sort of, there's always like a lot to unpack. They're quite dense. And so he talks about vibratings, who are the people like us that like his music, and he's just talking about like how like his message is he's giving his message to us, and he wants us to be able to take that and do something good and be better with the message, I guess, you know? So I like that. He talks about being from Brooklyn and that, you know, like I said, his music is better than drugs. And yeah, that's for me. I mean, it wasn't my favorite song, but we can find out if the next one is.
All right, do you have any cab fare?
Nope.
Trying to get rich off a single, then you blinded. Dumb niggas, so one track.
This track basically is 3 verses. I believe we got our first proper features here from Chuck Strangers and CJ Fly.
I mean, that's a pretty cool name. I like that, CJ Fly.
And the beat's kind of taken from the Taxi theme.
Yeah, I liked it. It was very 70s.
And yeah, so you get more of like their mindset, their grind, kind of where they're at, how they're like seeing things in a very, each guy kind of consistently followed up properly.
Yeah.
I enjoyed lines like, I'm telling him I might go bonkers if my mind ponders from hydroponics, 2 words, psycho and pompous, but the world doesn't know what a psycho pomp is. And I was like, okay, that's a pretty sick line. And to be clear, a psychopomp is a guide of souls to the place of the dead, right? And that's kind of the role, I guess, that he wants to be taking in this shit. So
yeah.
I learned what psychopomp meant, which was pretty cool. Anyway, I like learning words, as you may tell. I don't know how was fucking wicked was, but I'm just trying to be better than my team while getting some green. It's the American dream, but this is America, not a miracle, so it can't be good as it seems. That's fucking good, man. Like,
yeah.
You get bread, like, you gotta, like, go get this American dream. It's all potential. It's all reality. But, you know, because it's America, well, you know, it's never going to be quite like that. I don't know.
Or maybe it's just a different dream that he sees or that he gets, you know?
I don't know. I mean, but this is America, not a miracle, directly responding to the American dream, kind of implying it'll never be quite that, you know?
No.
Anyway. And then I believe this one is Chuck Strangers, where it's either way they tell him he's really cool or they ridicule silly fools. The pro's been dreaming big since middle school, killing him all not because it's our job, but just to feel involved. Break these bitches down to the ceiling fall. What I liked about that one is just the idea that they're not doing it, you know, because they have to, but they just kind of want to be included, so they're coming in and doing what they got to do, you know?
Yep.
And that's just interesting. Like, they've been pushing this shit since, I don't know, you just feel like the dedication. And then that last one I really liked was she said, ask a question. I'm not, she be necking. Jay's too fucking dope. Never fucking coming second. She said, wait a second. I said, time is money and money is time. Unless your head game dope, then sweetie, you wasting both. Now, I can see why you might not particularly dig that line, but just the idea that like he's putting it so bluntly, like, listen, don't waste my time. This is what I want. Time is money, and you know, I like the cleverness of how he articulated that. All right, like it is just impressively done as opposed to just standard like, give me what I want or go. You know, like,
Yeah.
It's got some charm to it. Altogether, I give this song a 4. I mean, it's exactly what it's supposed to be. It's fun to listen to, crazy bars, and I dig it.
Cool. I thought this was interesting. I liked the line, all we wanted was pizza the pie, right? And it sounds like Pete's of the pie, but he's saying pizza the pie. And I thought it was interesting considering that there's like features on here, so like everybody kind of wants to be on the song as well. Plus everybody wants like that slice of the American dream, which they're kind of having problems with, and that they're seeing that it's not quite as advertised, kind of. So for the second verse that CJ Fly was in, basically like for a lot of his like rap in his section that he just wants to get laid, and for Chuck Strangers, so he's the third verse, and he has a lady that gives him weed, and so I think that that's kind of like, I thought that was interesting that these guys are all just kind of players and casual and whatever. But yeah, again, it wasn't my favorite, but it had an interesting sound. I gave it a 4 on 5.
All right, let's move on to Dead on Arrival.
Okay.
Hey yo, STEEZ, what you cooking up? Niggas wanted trouble with the troublesome.
Bonnie, what did you think of this one?
Well, I liked it. It was good. But I wasn't like the biggest fan of the sound of it. Like maybe that's, you know, MF Doom is like featured again on this one, so maybe he has to do with
the beat is Dead Bent by MF Doom.
Yeah, so maybe the beat kind of got on my nerves like after a while. But I mean, that's not his fault, I guess, but maybe his fault for choosing it. I like that he was burping in the middle of it, and that he kind of just goes to show that he's, you know, he's getting paid and he's got money for food, I guess. And that I like that he's kind of like a bit cocky, a bit arrogant, I guess. And he's going down, and he's saying that he's going down as a classic, and that he's better than a lot of the people that are like at his time at the genre. And he thinks that he's above everybody else, but he's a weird guy, and he knows that, which also kind of like draws on the Indigo thing. But yeah, it wasn't my favorite one, but it was all right. I gave this one a 3.5 on 5.
I feel like this track is in and of itself like a big tribute to MF Doom, who I know is a big influence to the dude.
Well, clearly he's featured on a few of his songs.
It's not like featured, you just kind of jacked the beat.
Yeah,
but,
you know what I mean.
I don't know. I'm assuming Doom was okay with it. I might be wrong. But yeah, you kind of covered the gist of it. A lot of these songs explore very similar subject matter, so I'm really just gonna focus on the parts of this one that I really dug. I really liked the intro, the singiness, the way he kind of like, it just reminded me of Doom singing, and it was really cool, and it just put me in a good vibe for this track, actually. I love the little spelling part, like from MIA to DOA. It's no games, but I know my CD gon' play, and with everything I do, it's PE all day. Get it? Do, and then PE all day. That's DOPE. So them fiends gonna pay shit, and I'm just like, okay. And then PE's also Pro Era, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
So that's his group. So he managed to really do some interesting line there. I was impressed. And then, so PE be them super villains, which completely contradicts me calling him a hero before. But anyway, so PE be them super villains, groupies flocking at the concert just to boost their image. So you spent it on these stupid women out buying horseshoes like True Religion and Superstition. I mean, I like the fact that like he's just not like down for that waste of time shit. Like he's not
paying money for anything for anyhow.
But he doesn't, like, to me it's not taken in like a super like misogynistic way. It's more like, this is a game I want nothing to do with, and I see it happening and I'm out, and I'm like, that's just so not, again, expected kind of ideas coming from somebody. Anyway,
Yeah.
I like the flow of this. I think he did a great job on this beat, and I give it a 4.25. Just one last comment. I like how he manages to kind of have like every melancholy emotion possible expressed throughout these different tracks so far. He changes it just a bit to fit it, but like, he's definitely not the happiest dude.
But it makes me wonder, like, you know, if all of like the people that were around him and his friends and his crew and whatever, if like they didn't listen to this and get like a lot of little hints and messages out of it that maybe he wasn't doing so well. I hope that somebody took like time to like, you know, kind of try to help him.
Well, I'm certain, like I said, like I'm certain that we don't know anything about that situation.
Yeah.
So certain people.
But it was very like meticulously planned, like his whole suicide. Like he did it like da 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 da, like at midnight exactly and whatever.
I don't know anything about that. Again, I just think that.
And he posted on Twitter and he sent a few messages to his friends and that was that. Jumped off a building.
Yeah, that was definitely that. I assume that people were involved in his life and cared about him and shit.
No, of course, but I don't know. Maybe they just didn't see that he was like hurting so much, or like, something else had influenced him.
I mean, like just the account of that, so much music sounds so depressed and awful that like it would be.
Yeah, but I think a lot of them, when you look back, like you kind of get it from like the hints or the feeling that you get from just the experience of the album, that there is a lot of melancholy or death is upon them or something.
I think it's also something that you look for in hindsight when you know somebody's passed, and that if he had been alive, it would just be more about expressing the pain of people or whatever. But just knowing what happened to him changes the entire context of how you approach an album like this. Like, you're totally...
Yes and no. I think the message is still there, and I think that you're still kind of...
Like, I feel like there's a certain degree of, like, negative, but, like, to me, his general theme is he wants to fight for change, and he's reporting on the whatever. Like, all I'm saying is if he was still with us, I don't think anyone would have that line of thought. They'd just be like, this guy is unhappy with the state of things. Like, a lot of other folk happen to be.
Yeah.
There are a couple of tracks where he sounds a little depressed, like, specifically, but... A lot of people sound really depressed in this music, so
that's fair.
I don't necessarily think this album in and of itself
Plus,
gave
I think
any obvious clues that what was about to happen was going to happen.
Well, I think it was interesting too that he's also such a fan of the 90s era and like growing up back then, and like, you know, like the big rappers like Biggie and Eazy and, you know, Tupac and all of them, and kind of like trying to... He wants to be famous and he wants to fit in like those guys. So it's interesting. People, I know everybody compares themselves to these guys and that they're the greats, but I think that maybe he meant it more of like a legacy kind of thing. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading into it too much.
I don't know. I mean, I just don't. If he had schizophrenia, it probably was more of a random action, which was what I thought. Like, it just kind of happened. Maybe got a little bit too fucked up one time, but I don't really want to speculate on this shit because I don't want to be offensive or disrespect anyone like that, because honestly, we have zero information here, so all of this
it was everything that I read. It was
aimless speculation, right? It doesn't have any clear impact on anything, and so like I don't want to... Anyway, I give this track a 4.25, and let's go on to Doggybag.
Okay.
The Columbine shit. I'm going off, bomb threat, and the rest get cut short.
Song is Over Shiraz by Action Bronson. Smooth beat, kind of airy. It was not my favorite beat on this album. This song in general just kind of seemed to have him flowing about how his intelligence is like the source of his brilliance. Is kind of, if I were to sum up this track, like, he's intelligent, he's mature, he's ready, and it's because he's well thought out as a person, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And as always, he comes in with his interesting lyrics. Like, I really enjoy "Can't Send a Boy to Do a Man's Job, because a Tonka truck's a Tonka truck, doesn't matter what the body kit, in any way that you cut it, I'm still monstrous. Hey dude, he's in grade school, so play cool." Like, in terms of intelligence, the people he's going against just are so much inferior to him that he has to kind of hold back and not, you know, go in, which is...
I just thought that it meant more that he was like an experienced rapper, and like he has to like kind of like listen to like the younger rappers and like remember that he has more experience than them.
Yeah.
That was what I got from that.
Yeah, kind of. And then I also really dug the "Your shit is irrelevant. Ever since I started out with the smartest kids weren't getting it, questioning how to get up this level of excellence, I just tell them it's natural and they start respecting it." And that's interesting because one of the ways to manipulate people into power is to make all your hard work look really easy. And I wouldn't be shocked if you read the 48 Laws of Power or some shit. And like, it's really well grounded and really seems to understand how to play people to get what he wants out of a situation. And I thought that was particularly interesting. And then finally he goes, I mean, Jay STEEZ been sick with this diction. And Jay STEEZ is like his old rap name. I learned half these words in 5th grade detention. Problem child in the smartest class. Got him mad since they heard a prophet in my sonogram. Like, his words were so prolific that his sonogram came off prophetic. Like, it's a pretty, like, good track in general. So I'm going to give it another 4. It didn't, like, stand out again, but it's still well delivered.
Yeah. And in this one, we see, like, a bit of him kind of puffing his chest a bit and talking about how great he is and that he's a natural talent and he's experienced and he knows it. And so he's kind of cocky a little bit at this point. Well, I mean, he's been a little bit throughout the whole thing, but he talks about how being an indigo kid and having ADD is like what's giving him his powers, I think. And it's just interesting because I think that you think that a lot of like ADD kids maybe have like issues or aren't that like educated, but he's coming out there and saying like all these great lines and doing whatever he's doing. And I think that he's going to show that, like, you know, screw that. You know, he doesn't have to take that label or whatever, but he is taking the indigo label. So I guess there's like a difference. I don't think he's using Ritalin or anything either. And he talks about like carrying a gun under his shirt, and that's why kids left him alone. Because maybe they went to go pick on him for being something. And then, yeah, he just showed them this gun and they went away, which, I mean, I would do too. Yeah, just talking about him smoking weed and he's like a smart guy. And I think the doggy bag was supposed to be like the evidence of his, like he was hiding evidence in doggy bags, but I didn't really know I didn't really get it. I don't know. But yeah, I gave this a 4 on 5.
Fair enough. Let's go on to 47 Elements.
Taking over an answer anymore. This circus is a jungle. Why would I stop playing?
Did you think of this one?
Well, I liked that it was over like the Busta Rhymes song, So Hardcore, and like ya 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 kind of is like in the background. So this is sort of just like him talking about that he doesn't like cops. He's growing in his music. He's more cocky now. I think that's kind of like what he's talking about. And I think the elements that he's referring to are like the elements of rap, and like he's trying like lots of different things and he's experimenting, I think, a little bit. And like what it takes to make a great like rap, I guess. He talks about like a weed again, and he says, and my eyes stay tight like I'm an Asian. Well, and like I don't know if like anybody would get offended by that or not, but I thought that was like an interesting line. And you know, I guess that he had squinty eyes when he was smoking weed. But for me, like this song, like at this point in the album, after I listened to it a few times, I find that like it was kind of like I like it, but his attitude really comes through like throughout the whole album. And maybe I'm just kind of getting that, and that he was so braggadocious. But I think it's also just the fact that he was young. I think that, you know, he was young and he was kind of like, look at me, I've got all these crew, you know, I think that he's got like a whole bunch of kind of people who are fanning him and fawning over him. And I think that's kind of also what makes his ego get a bit big. So I give this one a 4 on 5.
That's fair. I kind of like had a bit of trouble with the Busta Rhymes. I think it's cool that he like takes these classic songs or whatever and fucks with them, but it just kind of was like throwing me off.
For me, that was the best part of the song.
But like he does have again great lines. Like the circus is a jungle. Why better stop blazing O's? You acting like I'm out here raping hoes. I'm not a criminal, so what the fuck you take me for? Cause I'm a lower class citizen. Tough pill to swallow, like broken glass and cinnamon. And it's just like interesting, right? Like I like the fact that he's kind of pointing out that the government's treating pot smokers like hardened criminals, like he is a rapist or whatever. When he's just kind of describing he's just a lower class citizen, you know, we have a certain habits or whatever. And anyway, it's I like that. I like those provocative lines that he can drop. Or I rose from the bush like Valentine's petals from an unstable family of alkali metals, hitting prime time like Channel 5 specials, and I never handled rock like Palestine rebels with pebbles. The antics and antiquities with Mr. STEEZ, I always got a trick up my sleeve, bitch. Please say whatever you will, but that's like really fucking decently composed in terms of just the rhyme scheme.
Yeah, for sure.
But like the way he's tying in, like he's dope, like the news, and then kind of showing how he never fucked with drugs while dropping a heavily covered news story and just dropping it up in the next line with antiquities. Like, come on. Like, that is pretty well done. So from a lyrical perspective, I'm still really feeling him, but as the mixtape goes on, you get the feeling that it's kind of a lot of the same thing rolled in different ways for sure.
Yeah.
But it, from like a diverse topic point of view, it isn't necessarily there, which is fine because it's a mixtape and he's showcasing what he can do. But I gave this another 4. It's still good. It's just not like it's like there's a few that really struck out to me, and then the rest of it's this solid, consistent level of okay, like good. Anyway, anything more on this one?
Nope. Let's move on to Hype/Beast.
Keep trying to text me. I've been in my own zone. How you going next me? I've been in my own class.
Right. So I do like this one more actually. It's basically working with the Golden by Jill Scott, which I don't know before this, but I really dig this beat a lot. It's featuring Uno Hype.
Well, with a name like that, he's got to be hype.
And in general, it's not that the subject matter was particularly more distinct here. It's that the overall feel and flow of the song just really captured me more, and I enjoyed how it was delivered. I like lines like, realer than all of y'all and it's time to confess it. I kept calling but they never got the message. Put in a lot of work, fall off, and that's it. It's only 1 year. That's too quick. They said you wanted next, but I couldn't give 2 shits. Like, he's kind of saying here, like, if you try something for a year and it doesn't go the way that you want and you just kind of give up, like, are you fucking serious? Like, and then you're gonna come at me like this, you know? And I see this all the time where people like start projects and nobody wants to put in the work, understanding that, like, take YouTube. Before your channel's supposed to see traction, it's like 18 months. We're not even at 18 months yet, and you might not get the results you want. You might not get what anything goes your way per se. YouTube might end its partnership program with you or some shit like that. But a lot of people give up, and he has no time for that shit, which I like. I totally dug that. Another one I thought was cool was, so assuming that I'm arrogant, I broke through the half of it. I break down where I get my clout from. The last child, not the least of the weak one. Strong-minded, and I got a green thumb. The fam got to eat, son, and the fans need at least a week's worth of words. And I like how he relates that it's his lyrical ability that's going to get him paid, and that he's got this ability to, like, almost, like, grow money out of his lyrics, which is particularly cool. That his approach is just so raw. I gotta make these songs. My fans want it. I know it. I'm gonna get paid by doing it. I'm gonna make this happen. I'm gonna put in that work. I'm gonna chase that dream. I'm gonna make it happen.
Good for you,
and
man.
That energy that I got on this song was fucking dope. I don't know why it was a Slash song. It just felt like a pretty cool thing. Maybe it was just, in this case, one guy was hype and the other was beast. You know, 'cause
I guess, yeah.
Anyway, so I give it a 4.5 on 5. I could really feel this one. This one has a certain something to it.
Cool. I liked, so Uno was in the first verse, and so it just kind of sounded like he sells drugs, and that his, like, skills are kind of like outside of the box, I guess. Or no, that was STEEZ. STEEZ thinks his skills are outside of the box, and, like, he knows that he's arrogant, and he knows that he's questioning a lot of things about life, but he has this, like, great support around him. He has this what is it called? Good people from God, from an army of good people from God, he says. So I thought that with them, he wanted to, like, conquer the world, and, like, having that following, I think that he really was very, like, you know, spiritual, and I think that he wanted to have, like, this great following behind him. So I thought it was interesting that he wanted to do all this, and it's so, you know, it's only like a 2-minute long song, but there's a lot of stuff in there. So I gave this one a 4 on 5. I liked it.
Dope. To infinity and beyond.
About to leave high school and mom's gotta pay the rent. Plus she climbing out of major.
This one is gloomy.
Yeah.
But the beat is interesting, right? I want to start there because it kind of mixes this song Heather by Billy Cobham, which I've never heard of, with 93 Till Infinity by Souls of Mischief, which I really fucking love. So it was kind of like this slowed down, but you can still hear the core sounds of that beat there, which I thought was really nice. And then it's their friend Riot was passed away or something.
Yeah.
And so he kind of has him on this like deep introspective, like pensive route where he's kind of just reflecting on some of these harsh realities that are around him. But really, like, this might be one of my favorite tracks on the album. I love the beat. I love the tone he takes for it. That kind of broken man approach to it fits perfectly over it. From like, then he's got lines like from Illmatic to Villmatic. Villmatic is J. Cole, if I'm not mistaken. Their songs popped, but real rappers are still at it. I don't think a deal mattered because when the fame come, you just another pill addict. And that's a genre I refuse to represent. And the next option is rendezvous with elegance. If your collar's blue, you're probably used to standing at a desk for 8 hours and opted out to selling bricks. And it's like, fuck, eh?
Yep.
Like the fact that he doesn't want to get famous. He doesn't want to endorse these drugs. And it's like, it is this like realization that people go to work, try it out, and end up still pursuing this drug trade. It's like, because anyway, it's just again a lot to like digest and think about. And then he again goes into like that conversational tone with like another rapper, but it's a bit different this time. Like, yo STEEZ, you know you nice dog, you killing them beats, and I really wish I could send you a beat, and you need to get on some of them industry beats. And that girl you wrote a song, is she letting you beat? And then he's like, kind of again responds, whoa, hold up, dog, you can't be serious. You really think I fell off from lyricism? And kind of responds to it a little more like, nah, I'm not gonna sell out. I'm gonna just keep doing my thing, which I really
Maybe
really
that was supposed to be
appreciate.
like Riot, like the guy talking.
Maybe. And then it just kind of ends with a nod to 93 Till Infinity with the "This is how we chill" from 93 till. It just kind of flows out, and I don't know, I get this one a 5. I really feel this track. It's really cool to me.
Wow. Well, you definitely said gloomy. It was definitely, you know, kind of a sad song. It's all just about kind of like, I think he also mentions like not killing your peers, like don't get involved in that, and but like in a different sense, I guess. I like the Infinity and Beyond, like it was like Toy Story. And I even checked it, so that came out in 1995, and he was born in 1993. That's why he's talking about 93. This is how we chill from 93 until they die, right? And also a fun fact to like mention is that I don't think he wrote this song. I think he kind of was like, I have enough feelings, I have enough emotions, like I can just go and freestyle this right now, and it's going to have like a great message. And I think that's what exactly he did, was that he did freestyle all of it, and I think that it left like, you know, there was a strong message, and it was for his friend, and I thought that was nice. And for me, I took the drug reference a little bit differently, like famous or not, like you can still get hooked on drugs, like I kind of got that, but maybe that's just me. As much as like I know that this is a heartfelt song, it didn't feel that great for me. So like I gave this one a 3.5 on 5. Yeah, sorry.
That's fair. A lot of people though might think that we just do this podcast so that we can continue talking shit.
Amateur rappers and they mans wanna battle and turn pale in the face like they last name Jakk.
This one is pretty much self-explanatory. I think the title sums it up pretty well.
Yeah.
It's
and it's featuring Joey Badass on this one.
Yeah, so it's these two fine fellows who are good buddies just talking a bunch of shit over this, you know, kind of simple beat. Like sometimes it's like the beats are really magnetic and enthralling, and sometimes they're just kind of like some rugged raw, like we just gonna fucking spit. And in some cases his voice is so emotional and whatever. Here he just sounds like that arrogance you were describing. Like he is here, he knows he's talking his shit, he's just doing it.
Well, they both are. I think they're both kind of at like that stage now.
And but I wonder if this might be older material because of the J STEEZ part, because that's like his older name, you know? Like,
okay.
So I'm wondering if it's like his newer material has kind of got this humbleness to it, and his earlier work is a little more on that arrogant side of things. So anyway, but he's got lines like, amateur rappers and their mans want to battle. and turned pale in their face like their last name Jackson. I admit it was early for that because, you know, Michael Jackson, I don't know. I don't actually remember when he died, but maybe it was early for that. But we still embarrassing and damaging the burliest cats. But on a higher note, J STEEZ plays keys. You can tell by the respect I've earned in the trap. And that's pretty like well constructed again, man. Like he kind of like is gonna make y'all get scared about his skills in the rapping. Basically, what I really like is he plays keys, and you can tell that this is true. Like he does the music thing, but the keys plays up on the trap line, like he's a coke, and he gets their validation. So it's just those kinds of like little bars that are pretty clever. And then I think this one was Joey Badass, but I keep the flyish chicks with the flattest stomachs claim they just want to get high, but on the low they be down to suck it. And I'm not the one to fuck with, but fuck it, leave the ruckus to a musket if you punk can't take the judgment. And I don't know, there's just something about like how he's just so nonchalantly like just drop that, but on the low they just down to suck it. Like these people say what they want, but this is the reality. I'm very aware of it. I'm awesome to fuck with. Like
it's like the groupies that are around them.
Yeah, and like they're aware of their position and shit, and they're just kind of flossing on through. The track's a 4.5 to me. Like, it's exactly what it's supposed to be. Two dudes talking shit, and they do it so cleverly, and it's just got a high degree of good energy to me.
Yeah. I mean, I felt like this one was quite, I don't know, it sounded like maybe it was just weak, or it was just, you know, at the beginnings. Like, it definitely felt like maybe it was one of his first songs or something. This is basically just him like saying that, you know, this is who he is. He's been making music and making rhymes since he was young. Like this is just, you know, part of what he does, and he's making money now from it. He talks about like Jay-Z and taking some of samples of his, and they're just sort of both badasses in life, badasses in music, and that's just kind of what they're saying. It's just sort of them talking shit. Yeah, I don't know. It wasn't my favorite one. I'm going to put this one at a 3.5.
On that note, let's move on to 135.
And as for them pumps, it's really bringing out the way that you strut. Like who wouldn't want to go?
The subject matter has indeed changed. We are now on to a lady song.
I don't know if that's necessarily that the subject has changed, because that's kind of what Joey Badass is talking about in the previous
No, what
song.
I mean is like this is a song that's entirely about a lady. Like it's got almost a narrative. Whereas
sort of
everything else was kind of in a different vibe than this track is.
It's sort of about a girl that he misses, right? Like, and he thinks about her a lot. And
I kind of like, well, for one thing, 135 according to him is fifth dimensional synchronization.
I don't know what that was.
I took it like he's trying to like relate to this person on such a deep fucking level and blah blah blah. I might be wrong.
It's a lot about chakras and stuff like that.
But like when you really like look at the lines, he had stuff like, "You're a lot more mature than the woman your age, and I really don't expect it to change. So take this as a token of my loyalty. It started with a blueprint. Now I need a supporting beam. Way before the contracts, you saw a lot more of me. I can't define it metaphorically." So it's about some girl that he wants to be with, and he's adoring, I guess. And
He, you know, I guess she's probably wanting more time, you know, from him. And he's kind of like, well, I've got contracts, I've got stuff to do, and whatever, and he doesn't have time.
But like he's saying, like he admires that her maturity. He assumes her maturity is gonna stay consistent there, and he's like, as a proof to the pudding, it all started with a blueprint. Now I need you on my team because back in the day before the contracts, you saw more of me, right? Like,
I think that they're sort of fuck friends, but that there's a connection there.
I don't know. And then he's got stuff like, and as for them pumps, it's really bringing out the way. That you strut. Like you wouldn't want a girl with elegance, intelligence, and a cute way of presenting it. I see what your potential is, and I know that even with or without me, you'll keep on ascending. And it's just like, how often do you see a rapper approach a woman and basically be like, you elegant, you fly, and all this, but the reality is with or without me, you're gonna continue on your quest and do your shit. Like that never hear that shit.
Yeah,
I really dig this one. I feel like he has a really cool way to approach women, at least on this track, and he really has this almost romance to him where it's so deep and so like well thought out, and I really appreciate a good almost love song, we'll say. So 4.5 on 5 for me.
Yeah, this is it's sort of a weird sort of a love song, I guess. I liked it. It was all right. I have one quote from the song. You're like a diamond in the rough, or the lighter to my Dutch. And I thought that was like a really weird comparison, and yet something that was like so necessary.
It's so endearing.
It's a weird comparison, but it's sweet, I guess, at the same time. I give this one a 4 on 5 for this.
And just one more note. It's over Electric Relaxation by a tribe called Quest.
Yeah.
Okay, so after that one, we're going to talk about some Bonified Loving.
Take it how you want it. I can take you overseas while I'm over my budget. What you need is some Bonafide.
This one is a little different, but still on the subject of ladies.
I think it's like a bit of a theme. I think that like at this point, like there's a few girl songs and stuff like that.
Well, basically this one, the niche is a little different. Apparently this one's an older song from back when he was by STEEZ. So this is not like new lyrics as far as the relative time is concerned.
And it's by Eric B. and Rakim.
Is it?
It's a beat of theirs, yeah.
Interesting. And basically, he's smoothly trying to convince a lady to drop her man so he can fornicate with her kind of guilt-free. Like, you know, he's got lines like, what you need is some Bonified Loving. I can make you feel like a grown-ass woman. I think that's the hook.
Yep.
First is the finer things, and that's only if you want it. That's only if you with it, so make your decision. So it's interesting how he's basically saying, I want this. I know you want this. I know, like, in general in the song, I know you're not happy with him, but you can't have it until you decide. You know, like...
He's trying to, like, say, like, oh, I've got this mature love, and I've got, you know, I'm not, like, this little boy that you're going out with or whatever. And he's sort of trying to convince her a little bit with, like, material things and with trips and stuff. Like, well, if you want, you can go out with me and you can have these things. And I thought that, you know, it was just interesting that he's, like, trying to, like, woo her with this stuff, but he also has, like, Bonified Loving, so maybe there's something there.
Oh yeah. But then he's also got lines like in the verses, it sound like you torn in the middle, like you getting on with more than a little. Tell him he ain't forced to be with you, maybe he'll get the bigger picture if it's drawn with a stencil. I'm Leonardo or Pablo Picasso, you're Mona Lisa with the smile of a model. And I kind of like the fact that even in the midst of this, he's like, fine, well, if you don't really want me, still demand more from him. Like, just the idea that she's not getting what she deserves is fundamentally what's offensive to him, more so than, say, the fact that he can't have her. And there's elements of that kind of in. And I kind of dig that. Like,
yeah.
I dig the creativity in the fact that he can approach these ladies' tracks in such fundamentally different ways. This one I give a 4 to. I didn't like it as much, but again, I think most of this album so far has consistently been really
good.
Decent and good songs across the board. Maybe they're not great songs, but they're all fucking good.
Yeah, I also gave this a 4 on 5. Yeah, it's basically about everything you said about convincing this girl to go out with him, and yeah, I think that he's just kind of looking for a relationship at this point.
All right. I think the next one is the last song on the original version of the album. So,
Chicago.
Yeah, Chicago.
That funk, got nothing but blunts and mommy with the junk in the trunk. Pro R&B, the troublesome bunch.
So this one is again over an MF Doom beat, White Willow Bark, which I don't know that I know that song yet. So hopefully we'll cover that.
We'll
Doom
learn
album
it one day.
Before we talk about this song, there is a particular note I found on the Genius that I thought was worth mentioning because it might set some context here.
Okay.
Chicago is a smoking game. To play, you take a big-ass hit from whatever, a bong, a joint, whatever you're doing, and you can't exhale until the shit gets back to you and you passed it around the room. And so knowing that, you go into the song, and I don't know, this is like the first one I like in a long while. Like I had some trouble getting into it. I didn't actually enjoy it as much as the other tracks on this album. It has a lot of great lines, like lyricism isn't appreciated in song, and I won't dumb it down just dumb it down just to be business smart. Your beat's cool, but it isn't from the heart, and of course your bars just don't require thought. You hear the lines roar every time I perform, a divine defiant to the lines of the art. So, you know, he's back, he's pure, he's doing his shit,
yep.
Same kind of deal. I like that it's the mystic, materialistic, misfit child of the Imperial Empress. Ever since birds flew away, I've been spitting this wittiness. It should be considered a sickness. And I realized the verses on this song are truly impeccable. But do you know where my grievance comes in?
Where?
That repeating chorus over. It's like 4 times in a row each time. And that kind of got to me. Do you
comprehend? That one?
It got to me a bit. So I give this one a 3.5 on 5. It is as good, I suppose, from a verses perspective, but I did not like the repeating chorus, and the beat wasn't enough for me.
Okay. I like the beat to this one, actually. I thought it was interesting and kind of spacey, but not like futuristic, like old school futuristic, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So he's just talking about like Proera as his crew. And he says, I've got it locked on the indigo ribbon. So he's talking about the chakras, but also like the indigo kids again. And about his soul. And so it is like a very like spiritual kind of thought. So he just wants to like leave his mark on the hip hop game, and I think that's just what he's trying to do with like him and his crew, and like the whole message is kind of like, do you comprehend? Like that's what he's here for. Like he's here to like kind of stay with you. And he won't change his life for anything. Like this is what he wants to do. And I thought it was interesting to think about the 2 eyes in Insanity, and I thought that it was interesting, like 2 eyes were looking at you, and it's also kind of like a reflection thing. I don't know, that's what I got out of it. But I like this song. I gave it a 4.5 on 5.
All right, cool. So let's move into the Reloaded section with Love is Evil. Spell it backwards, I'll tell you. I mean, Evol Love.
Of empowerment, bitch. The evil of love is so subliminal.
This was really interesting for me. It's really dark and depressing. In like this is the song I was most thinking of, where like if there was anything on this album to imply this man might be a little depressed, it would be this track.
Yeah, for sure. It's very like kind of sinister and creepy sounding.
Like it's kind of this jaded reporting on how cold things are in his life, how everyone kind of loves to be evil, right? Like it's almost like we choose it, like we're compelled to it. Shows how unhappy he really is throughout it. But I also noted he overcame a speech impediment through rapping and stuff, which is pretty cool. How many people with speech impediments have been able to use hip-hop as a means to like overcome that shit?
Yep.
It's not the first time I've heard that. Anyway, when he's got like some fucking like interesting lines, like the evil of love is so subliminal and the love of evil is so sinister. The damnation is round by sinners still. Middle finger to your pastor and your minister. And it's just like shit, eh? Like,
yeah.
So like, you know, it's all around us. It's so sinister, and it's kind of propagated and taught from all of our authority figures. I feel like it's being a little loose, and it's not so attached to religion. And then I looked up what the meaning of life was and ended up with a fake smile and a light buzz. Right, cuz I went off like a light bulb. I might seem fine, but the smile is only plastered on. Like that's a really powerful sentiment, and it's interesting just because as I've progressed the corporate ladder a little bit and seeing it, like when you go to work, when you go live your life, when you're around your people and your crew, this expectation is that you're always smiling, you're positive, you're okay. In fact, you'll probably make more money as a person if you can maintain this positive smiley.
Fake it till you make it.
Like if people perceive you as agreeable, you'll do better. And well, like you
because they want to spend more time with you.
And this isn't necessarily being agreeable; it's how people perceive you. So the idea of fake smiles and shit becomes in.
I think it's more of how people feel themselves when they're around you.
I don't know. The last one that really caught me was Dancing in the Rain, so romantic. Imagine you trapped in a hurricane while beefing with your companion, both uncompassionate, laughing at the half of it, but deep down you both wish that you was holding hands. And I've had those moments where you're all beefing with your partner and you guys are unhappy and you're all blah, blah, blah. But really at the end of the day, you just kind of want to hold hands and make everything better, even in the midst of all your shit. And there's a lot of deep ideas packaged into this one. It was particularly excellently composed, delivered, fucking interesting. 5 on 5 for me. One of the best tracks on the album.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. This one definitely feels very emotional, very deep. You kind of get this like sense that he's just angry. He's just very angry, and he's rich, and he's trying to like see that people are trying to use him. I got at the beginning. One of the notes that, or one of the lyrics that I wrote down was, haven't shed a single tear, but I'm hurting down inside. And I mean, like, right there, I mean, again, same thing. This is the song that clearly is like, okay, he has some problems. He needs some love. And,
but just to, like, again, counter it, just because you wrote that doesn't necessarily.
No, I know. And on the previous song, you know, one of the previous songs, he talks about having, like, a godlike army around him. So I think that that's kind of interesting. He's got all these great people that he loves, and you know, as long as he's got that. So about the anger thing, and he talks about that his father had a temper, even though he doesn't really know his father. He just kind of heard through the grapevine that he also had a temper. And I think that that's interesting, that he's angry and he's like kind of trying to relate his anger to his biological father. So yeah, I give this one a 4.5. I mean, it's definitely probably one of the most hard-hitting songs on the album.
All right, then Black Petunia is the next one on our journey through AMeriKKKan Korruption Reloaded.
My conscience won't allow me to shoot, so I only value time in the booth. If that's fine by.
This one is also kind of depressing, not gonna lie.
Yep.
Kind of goes from reflecting on the shallow world of dating to focusing on the studio to genuinely being depressed and hiding shit, which is, again, like, in hindsight, it's like, eesh, you know?
Yeah.
The part where Jakk, the rhymer who's featured on this, describes losing his father, though, that was some powerful shit, too. That was, like, input into there. As far as the beat goes, it's got this nice, again, almost depressing feel to it.
Yeah, creepy, melancholy sound.
Which definitely fits the subject matter. I do like the part where Mr. STEEZ is like, the last chance of happiness for my family because mama's getting older and it's bringing out the man in me. I wish it had happened sooner because every afternoon I realize another day is passing that I lack improvement. Think I'm losing it. Homie's asking what happened to you. The concrete rose turned into a black petunia. And it's just like, like, the part where his mom's struggling is like forcing him to like grow up quicker and have this realization of all the time he wasted and lost, and how that reality is kind of turned him into a darker person. And that's something I've experienced in my life, and I can understand where he's coming from a little bit there. And it was just, again, really, there's a lot of powerful lyrics on this album. So again, that's the drawing point of this album. You came to this album if you like powerful lyrics, is my assumption, right? You can let us know in the comments if that's true or not. But another one I really dig was, that's why I'm riding through the night, and mama, when your sun shine, they ain't ever gonna take a light again. Overpriced taste, we been hungry, we overdue. Watching gangsters in the tube, living like they showed me to. New Jack City, so the whole clique paid in full. I need to watch New Jack City again. Bonnie wanted to cover out of gangster movies like that. Let us know if you want to see us do that. That would be cool.
I mean, I haven't seen many of them.
In the hook, they're kind of like losing themselves in weed to like escape and deal with this shit, and like their dependence on weed is just a way to like cope with the overwhelming amount of pain and darkness that they experience. I dig the track. I gave it a 4.5. It's powerful. It's on the stronger side of this. Like, honestly, these Reloaded ones so far, the first two, really great additions to the album.
Yeah, I really like this one. The black petunia is a type of a flower, and it has like symbolism with Mother Mary, and it also has a lot of symbolism with like evil and anger and stuff like that. So it's interesting that he's kind of using this as sort of like, maybe he's flipped the coin and he's sort of in the middle maybe. So this is just where they're dealing with like their sorrows, you know, exactly what you said, the materials with problems with like materials and with girls and just, you know, issues in general. And it's kind of like in the chorus or the hook, it says puff puff pass, but it's not like a fun thing. Like, he's kind of saying it like puff puff pass, like he has to, like he's almost depressed in like the way that he's saying it, and it's just like, are you high enough? And it's not. It's, are you high in life? Like, you know, have they made it yet? Kind of like that, I was thinking, but I think it's also just to cover up all like, you know, all of their sad memories and, you know, any issues that they're having. They just need to be so high that they're medicated and that they're forgetting, you know, everything that's maybe wrong in their lives. So I just thought it was sad, kind of. And then Jakk talks about having grown up poor and was, on the streets, and there's violence and stuff like that. So it's just sad, like kind of listening to the story and then like, thinking about what actually happened. So, I give this one a 4.5 on 5. There's a lot of meaning. It's very sad. Not much more I could say.
That's all right. You could say it was a hard time.
Sure can.
Sandals that compliment your camel's feet. What you think of yellow? Got you feeling slick and mellow.
This one is more lady stuff. I think the crux of this track is the hook. Lets us know that she's down on the condition that he doesn't tell the squad that they did it, so that she isn't perceived in a negative light.
She doesn't want to be a hoe.
But otherwise, it's like just commenting on the girls and whatnot, and like the desire and stuff. Like, I think she's bi-curious, bi-furious bags. Good line though. On the root of all evil, I want serious cash. Don't laugh. You see where I'm at. You need a new map. And then you have Dirty Sanchez on this one. Also, It's Over Baltimore by Randy Newman.
Again, I also wanted to kind of relate back to that because Randy Newman is the guy who does like the song for Toy Story. Mm-hmm. And so since there was like a reference to Toy Story, I thought that maybe he likes Randy Newman. I don't know.
Well, he definitely liked this one.
Yep.
And you have Dirty. I think that first one was Dirty. Then you have, is it a bit too explicit if I ask her to lick it, or rude if I assume the position? I like that. Is it a bit too explicit if I ask her to lick it? It's just like, is that too far? Yes. Or rude if I assume the position. Wax on, wax off like you're rinsing the dishes. I hate that line. Like everybody said. Anyway, that's why I got her wetter than the kitchen. Or is it? And then more lady stuff. And like, this song is okay. It's just kind of exactly what it is. It's well executed. There's a few lines that made me chuckle. It's a 4 on 5. The beat doesn't do a lot for me. It's not. This is back onto the it's okay, and we've kind of moved out of the exceptional range.
I thought that Dirty Sanchez is an interesting guy. He's definitely dirty. He talks about like wanting to like eat the girl and blah blah blah, all the stuff that he wants to do with her. But she doesn't want to be labeled a hoe. But then she ends up sleeping with both of them, or fooling around with both of them. And then at the end, they both kind of like, well, now how are you getting home? Like they're not taking care of her. They're just like, okay, go home now. Like, figure your shit out. I'm not paying for your cab. Like, they're both kind of like fucking her and leaving her, like, in a sense. And I'm guessing she's being used and being kind of maybe passed around. And I think it kind of sucks if you're that girl and you don't want to be, but you end up being that. And then they kind of just dismiss her and send her home. But as much as it's a shitty song or a shitty message, I guess, I like the song. I gave it a 4.5.
Fair enough. Let's talk about 47 Piiirates.
All right.
Wet shirts, life's a bitch. Well, I'm a super soaker. The newest flow got the main.
I feel like this is literally just a worse version of the previous track.
Yeah.
Same kind of idea. Same Dirty Sanchez feature.
Yep.
Same, really.
And he just wants to like come in women's faces. That's what he talks about.
There's nothing wrong with that. Relax. But basically, the beat is this is one of those you love it or hate it beats. It's loud, it's obnoxious, it's got sounds, and you're either gonna dig it or hate it. I was not the biggest fan of the beat, but I didn't hate it.
Yeah.
Like, it's interesting. In the right mood, it'll tickle my fancy. Otherwise, again, it's just got some comical lyrics that I thought were a little fun. Like, she got double D's, I call it a drug bust, but I'm not slipping over lust, in God we trust. Plus, I came from the bottom, who do you think you're touching? Busting your girl's face, I know I'm good for nothing. I love that line.
It's good for nothing and good for nothing. Yeah, we got it.
Because in your girl's face, anyway, everything about that is like, on the one hand, I get why, it's whatever, but it's still
he's Dirty
funny.
Sanchez, thanks.
It's funny lyrics to me. Like, he's comical with it and is able to deliver this shit in an interesting way.
Yeah.
Look, now I know I could start it off with a whole new excerpt, a revisit from what them experts said first. Your favorite rapper's a problem. I'm the next worst. It's the naked truth. I sleep through them like wet shirts. Life's a bitch while I'm a super soaker. And I like it. It's just funny. It's just like, you've heard all this dense-ass shit on this album, and now we're hearing about this, and it was just such a strange transition to me. I gave this a 3.75. It's inherently a fine song, but like, I would just skip over it at this point. This is totally not what drew me into what was cool about this album, and now it's been like 2 in a row like this, and it's like if you didn't like the first one, you're in. Okay, this is basically that track again on a different beat.
Yeah. So this is just sort of, them talking about the modern world and that, they're the next generation and that they take what they want and they get what they want and they're tough like pirates. And they'll just go out there and just take whatever they want. And that's exactly it. They're just like pirates, and that they're a crew. And that they just want money or they want booty or whatever. And like, so they're just in it for that. And yeah, I mean, that's it. That's pretty much the message of this song. So I give it a 4 on 5. I thought it was, again, it was one of the okay ones.
Or whatever. Let's discuss the Herban Legend.
Yes.
Take 5, take something off the grapevine, twist it like gang signs, or you can bag it and try.
All right, new subject matter time.
Well, kind of going back into the old subject matter.
I don't know about that. So first of all, I got to comment on the cool.
Yeah, the little bit of
sounds,
beatboxing.
And the noises that were added to this beat were excellent. But this song is kind of like, I'm the weed guy. Allow me to walk you through your first high. And he's like introducing people to their highs and shit as he goes throughout the track. I mean, he's kind of got lines like, won't catch STEEZ ever getting locked for no keys, letting you know he's moving. He's not doing that. Thought about it since they got what I need. They make money, he doesn't have it. I could make a use of them extra pocket in my jeans. It came with a rocket and a beam. It guaranteed to rock for your lean. Nah, I mean, fuck standing in them dead restaurants, hitting free studios, hoping it will get me on. So instead of, doing the whole drug thing, he's doing the music thing and doing, showing up in the studio, waiting, hoping for an opportunity, this, that, the next thing, putting in a different kind of grind. But he really talks like he talks about introducing his like engineer or whatever to weed, or he's like, I know you don't smoke a lot, so try it like this. And
I think he just wants to get everybody high so that he can be high and feel, get everybody out of like the down in the dumps that they may be in. So I think that he's just trying to like make everybody kind of feel better with weed. But
I really dig this one. I thought it was a little more fun. A little more energy.
It was a bit of a unique verse because it was just like one verse. It was just that flowed, and it just kept going. And it was just interesting that he was just like spitting this random huge verse.
But I like how like it felt a little more like him, a little like, I don't mean to say that the last couple of tracks weren't like him, but kind of presented himself in a couple of lights. And I suppose I like this more introspective, humbler version of him that we've encountered. So for me, this track is a 4.25. It's really cool, and I would totally go back to it.
Cool. I gave this one a 4.5 on 5. I liked it. It was definitely, one of the better ones. I think that he isn't so humble because he talks about like that most rappers don't write they don't write stuff that's worth listening to, but he does, and like that's what he wants. He wants you to be able to listen and walk away with a message and leave you with some thoughts. And I think that that's what he's trying to do, and I thought it was a unique way to approach it. So yeah, like I said, I gave this a 4.5. I thought it was good.
All right.
So up above, it would be the next one.
To show 'em how I live, now she blowing down twigs. They both thin and they look.
The return of Mr. Dirty Sanchez for the third time on this album. Bonnie, why don't you tell us what you think?
This is basically a weed song. So it's good. It follows up like the previous song. It's another weed song. He's basically just smoking with a girl to see what she likes. And he's just up above it all. He's just like, he's so high, and he's kind of just like seeing what's going on down in the world that he's in at the same time. It was a good song. It wasn't bad. It wasn't my favorite. 4 on 5. It's, it is what it is. Like I said, it's another kind of weed song.
I dug it. I dug some of the lines in it. I gave this one a 3.5 on 5. I don't know, something about the Dirty Sanchez tracks, all three of them. I didn't really feel them. I feel like thematically he changes when he's with the Dirty Sanchez guys. There's something about the way he approaches songs differently that I like less than when Dirty Sanchez is not there.
Okay.
Those are my thoughts. But I did like the lines. The backwoods had to make it classic. So matches is like magic. Mix the spinach with the cabbage. In fact, it copped a few caps from the shroom patch. Guess who's back with the new rap smothered in boom bap? Assume cap, I flipped it back like eyelids to show him how I live. She's blowing down twigs. And you know what? I like the rhyming there. I like the flow. I like the just general feel of it. Or You could spend a night, and I could see what kind of shit you like. I'm gonna hit the Dutch, and you could get the pipe. Get it? Just to get the record straight, she spits on my mic. Get it? And
We got it.
I happen to. I don't know. The guy makes great blowjob puns, but like ultimately, those are the highlights to this one. So like, I'm more into the denser, more interesting, like introspective shit, and less of this one. And I don't know. I don't have a lot more on this song per se. There's one more left.
That's the apex.
We've reached the apex.
Not bilingual, but got two tongues. If that's what you into, I got it, so I'm into. Chicks that
This is such a hype little beat, and it's short as fuck. It's like a minute.
Yep.
And he comes in, he does this powerful verse, kind of like almost like an anthem of sorts, charges you to fuck up, and then it just ends before it like goes anywhere.
Kind of like he did.
Oh shit. But you can say like my favorite line in this was defy your own limits. They thought that I would die, but I survived. I'll spinach. Macho Man Popeye did it. Come on, who doesn't like a good Popeye spinach bun? And I know you're looking down, so Pop, I did it. Pretty good rhyming there too. The key to my lyric is my psychic, astrophysical. I can tap into your spirit, and I would agree. He does have that ability. Very astute. And then it's indigos on rotation. Bring in amistite. Must be out your cranium to even try and aim at this. It can't be a Satanist. I don't know who Satan is. That's a pretty cool line.
Yep.
Like that's pretty like in general cool. This track's a 4 for me. It's definitely a nice little ditty. If I'm playing it through and it comes on, it's gonna be nice, but it's just a good, really strong, solid verse, and that's all it really is.
All right. I like this one a lot. I thought it was good. I definitely thought it was a good ending to his entire album. He talks again about the indigo children, and then he's trying to use his powers to bend a spoon, and like that's part of it too, is that they are supposed to have like these magical powers and stuff like that, and it's just like this whole weird. Anyways, look into indigo children, and sort of just like the birth of like a generation that will like grow into like, you know, like the best generation that's yet to come. And so he's kind of trying to like motivate like his younger people, and they're all high, they're all spiritual. There's a lot of chakras and minerals. And I also wrote down the same line that you said, and I know you looking down, so Pop, I did it. So I just wanted to say for that line, like I'm guessing that his father, his Pop, is dead and like is looking down at him, and he's kind of saying like, look, I made it. But it's also kind of like, and I know you looking down, so Pop, I did it. Like pop of a gun. And then he's like that's what I read, and I thought it was an interesting like kind of idea that maybe he was already at that point maybe considering suicide, or Pop, there was a, you know, maybe he shot someone or something like that. Like it didn't have to just be suicide, I guess. And yeah, he knows his enemies, and he wants to make you a changed and better person. And he says, and at the end he says, and of course I'm targeting you. Like the people who are listening to this, he's obviously like targeting you and leaving this message with you. And then it just kind of fades away into like this sadness, floatiness at the end. So yeah, I liked it. I thought it was good. It was definitely a 4.5 on 5 for me.
All right, cool. So that's the end of this one. I give this mixtape a 4.223 on 5. I like it. I understand why people dig it. There are definitely, like, I would not listen to all of the songs again personally, but there are the ones that I really like, and I can see how with proper engineering and like a real album, this dude would have a really great experience, and I super hope that they get this album out so that we can hear it, the one that's supposed to get released.
It's supposed to be released in 2018, so
it was supposed to be released in December of 2017, and it never happened. So all that to say, I really respect and admire his lyricism, his mind, and his abilities. His flow is on point. If the production had been better, I think I would have really graded this album a lot more. And if there had been a little more, like, I'm not really used to mixtapes yet, like I said at the beginning. So
yeah. Well, this is like one of our first ones we've done, like an actual mixtape.
We did the Wayne one, and we've done a couple,
okay.
but like we tend to do more of the studio album side of things. So it was definitely a newer experience, at least on the Classic Quest. It's probably our first mixtape here.
Yeah.
End of the day, what did you think?
I gave it a 4.09, so it just makes it onto the, you know, the Classic Quest rating. as a classic. It's like 81%. I mean, there's not a song on here that's bad. It's all good with some that are better. And I think that that's kind of like the gist of the whole album. That I think that he was starting off, and he was growing. Like, this was, when he was 19 he put this out, and so he was young. And so I think that we could have seen, a lot of better and different things from him. Not necessarily better, but just growth.
I would imagine that newer work would have gotten better with time.
Of course. And so, I mean, it's a shame to see, like, another artist go down that route, but it's just, yeah. I mean, I thought it was good. I thought that he's good. I think that he's right in having, like, a cult-like following. I don't know if I would go back to it again, but I may listen to a few of the songs again just to kind of really take home that message of, what he's trying to say. So, yeah, I guess that's about it.
All right, thank you all for watching. Don't forget to let us know in the comments how you felt about the review, the album, your general thoughts on Capital STEEZ, because it's really more about the discussion in the community.
Tell me, like, how you guys, like, found out about him, and, how you guys kind of came together. And, I mean, is there a Facebook page? Is there a group? I feel like, if there's, like, this cult-like following, there's got to be something.
And yeah, so let us know, and don't forget, for the comments you leave, you do get entry into the raffle. And on that note, we will catch you next week. We are going to review one that's been requested a few times, and
Hold your horses, you're gonna get it.
I think y'all are gonna like it. So have yourselves a great week, everyone.